Hello, good morning. It is now Friday, the 10th of October. My sister's birthday is on the Monday. So 10, 11, 12, yeah. So it's the 10th. Friday, the 10th of November 2025. And what you can see in front of you is a piece of plastic wrapping that I actually put on the wall in the kitchen of the property that I'm currently still a tenant of. Now, the main reason I put this on the wall is because when I moved into the house itself, they have got these really nice tiles in part of the kitchen, not all of it. And above the tiles, I obviously put this on the wall. And the main reason I did this is because in the kitchen where I am renting, there is no extractor fan in the kitchen above the oven or the hob, which is underneath my wooden chopping boards. That is some butter that I used to cook something with, and I will reuse that later on this evening, and it will go back in the oven. Yes, I know people are probably saying, stop using butter when cooking, it's not healthy for you, but you know, it's one of them. I'd hardly say using ghee is healthy for you either, but it's a matter of opinion. So yes, I put this on the wall because one of the things that a lot of kitchens actually struggle with, especially in rented houses, is grease fires or grease flash fires. And that is because I've actually been in HMOs. When my dad was a plumber, we used to work for a lot of companies that were HMOs, rent a room, and obviously rented properties. And anywhere where it's part of the culture to use a lot of grease for cooking, stir fries, curries, etc., you could literally wipe your finger down the wall in the kitchen and you would probably get like an inch of grease that would come off the wall. I try really, really hard, and over the last 9 years, not to use anything that is obviously going to splatter, that's got a lot of grease in it, and can potentially be absorbed into the wall itself. Now, behind this beautiful wrapping that I put on is just a painted wall. It is an extension of the original house, so I do not know what they have used for the extension. I'm not a builder, I'm not a surveyor, but my biggest worry was, oh my God, the last thing I want in this house, right next to the boiler, right next, like above where the hob is to have a wall that potentially was going to be really, really hard to keep clean or to wipe. Usually what you would have is like something that was made of stainless steel, very much like you would have in a industrial kitchen. They would kind of advise that in a non-commercial but residential kitchen, especially if it's rented. So I don't know what the rules and laws and legislation are about that, but I know myself from working in hospitality and catering that any walls that you want to keep clean, you want to keep them free of grease, bacteria, etc., need to be easy clean, easy wipe. So sadly, when I do move out, when I'm forced to move out and I'm evicted, all I've got to do is just pick that from the corner and then I'll just pull it off. I could keep it, but if I am going to go on the checking in photographs of when I moved in 9 years ago, this was not on the wall. It was a plain wall and there was nothing on there, not even an extractor fan. So whenever you open the oven, which now works, guys, this is my fourth oven that I've had in this property, and it's the only one so far that works. But when you open the oven, whoa, look at all that steam that comes out. And it has nowhere to go. Right, I'm just going to turn that off for a minute because it looks like the food might be burning. Again, there's no timer on this oven. You're literally having to guess how long things are going to cook for, which is something myself I'm not very good at, which I will admit. So sadly, I will have to take this off the wall. I will not keep it. It will have to be discarded. Yes, it will end up in landfill, unfortunately, because you can probably see here in between the irises, which are absolutely beautiful. I mean, I hope I could potentially get this design again in the future. You can see that there's grease on there, and it does need to be removed and the wall wiped down before repainting. Then if we go over to the window, you can see that I have put on some adhesive tiles, which will quite easily, saying that, peel off and be removed. And again, the reason I put them there by the sink, which yes, I know I need to wash up, was because originally when I moved into the property, the window itself, if you look at any of my other videos, was not completely sealed. Water kept coming into the kitchen and dripping down the wall. I was worried that I didn't want to be trapping moisture in the wall itself, but again, it gave me something that was easy to clean, easy to wipe, and it also gave the wall, especially somewhere where you're obviously going to be washing up and using hot water a lot, it prevented the steam and moisture going onto a cold surface direct by having these tiles that are adhesive and again were easy to clean, easy to wipe. So they can be removed and they will be removed. And again, you've got those beautiful tiles at the bottom. But what I can't understand is when the previous owner or the owner that owned the house originally, why didn't they just tile the whole wall? Or at least up to the unit? But they didn't. And again, behind there, you probably can't see because of all the washing up I've got to do, there was no like splash guard. So whenever you washed up, because there was a 2-inch gap between the sink and the wall itself, the water would just literally run down the back of the sink. And again, because there was a gap outside and internally, because they had not fixed the window correctly, water was coming in every time it rained, and then again water was leaking out every time you used a sink. Again, I mean, you've got these really lovely tiles here, and it's such a shame, to be honest, that, you know, they didn't carry on this tiling effect around the whole of the house. But now there is a splash guard just there, and one of the things I will say about the person that put it in is they love silicone. Yes, I know I've not washed up. This is how much silicone they have put around the actual sink, and they have used it to try and hide any mistakes that they have made. So there is a lot of silicone in this house since 2025, because that is what they have used basically to try and cover up any mistakes that they've made. So again, I hope this has been useful to you. If you are in rented accommodation, please remember to keep your check-in photographs. Doesn't matter how long you live in a property, please keep them. And again, try and put the house back to how it was when you first moved in. It doesn't matter whether you've been there 6 months, 6 weeks, or 6 years. Try and, you know, do what you can. But as you can see clearly here, my landlord and the person who put in the kitchen when this new unit got put on earlier on this year in 25, they never measured it correctly, and they have put silicone right here in the groove, which again is going to harbour a lot of bacteria in the kitchen. It's going to obviously erode over time, because as you know, silicone expands and it can contract depending on what it's subjected to. Just like in the bathroom, everyone knows how easy it is for the silicone around the bath or the shower to trap moisture and to create a breathing ground for black mold. And sadly, the same thing will happen in the kitchen. Whereas if it had been put in correctly, the work unit, there would have been less chance of that happening in the future. But hey, you know, apparently I'm not going to be here for much longer, so it's not my problem. But what is my problem is obviously trying to ensure that the property looks as much as it can as possible to when I originally moved in. Bearing in mind I have lived here for 9 years with 3 children. And there has been alterations and changes to the property, such as a new boiler, which it was and is smaller than the original. And when it got put in,